Hey everybody, it's Scary Bad Reviews and welcome to another weekly review roundup. So this past week was a little crazy and this is coming to you guys a day late because of the combination of the Celtics making the Eastern Conference Finals and making it all the way to a Game 7, and of course my Washington Capitals making it to the Stanley Cup Final. Watching their games, it took me a little while to fit in the 4 movies that I want to talk about this week. But before I get into the actual movies themselves, I kind of wanted to give you guys an insight of what I look at when it comes to reviewing the movie. When I look at a movie and I want to depict and, describe what I think was good about it, what wasn't, how it worked, I think of primary, secondary, and tertiary attributes. So the 3 primary attributes that I think of are the plot, meaning, is there a good story told? The writing, is it set up in a way that can succeed? Is the dialogue natural? Is it written to be choppy? And acting, how do these characters display themselves on screen? So those are the 3 primary attributes I look at. Secondary attributes I look at are music, cinematography, and pacing. So the next tier of things that I look at is, are there good music? Is there good sounds that help drive the plot forward or help it get out of slow points? Does the visuals of the movie help to drive the plot? Does it keep your attention on the plot? And does it add to the plot itself? And by pacing, I mean, how quickly does the story evolve? How often do events happen? Are there these slow, drawn-out points? Are there these really fast, fever-pitch points? And then when it comes to tertiary, I look at much more minute things like how good the special effects look on screen, the chemistry between the actors themselves, and just the setting of the movie. With the chemistry between the actors, I mean, you have to look good together on screen. You have to appear to be in a natural situation rather than, hey, we threw these 2 people in a room and made them talk to each other. Those special effects, they have to try to look natural, or they have to try to look organic. If they look very out of place, it pulls your attention away from the movie itself. So let's jump into some movies. I had 4 that I watched this past week. The first one that I watched was a Netflix original called Before I Wake. A young boy has been through the foster care system, and the family that adopts him realizes that everything that he dreams comes to life and becomes real until he wakes up. So the problem is that when he has nightmares, the same thing happens. So it's this perilous balance between, we love the things that he dreams about, but we are in danger of the things that he has nightmares about. There's a great dynamic with this family that adopts him, who had lost their original son, of using the boy's dreams to see their original son again. That's the main plot point in the first 2/3 of the movie, is that the mother is kind of trying to use the boy to see her original son again. And then during this back third, you kind of start to see what happens in his nightmares, and then it's this reoccurring character who always comes up in his bad dreams, that steals people from him, takes the important people in his life and hides them away. So to really talk about this movie, it was so close to being a good horror movie. So many times it was just a hair away from having great moments and these beautiful images, and it just felt a hair short. I mean, the imagery in it of his good dreams was beautiful. Butterflies all over the place, the sun at Christmas time, it all looked great on screen. Him and the mother had this weird power dynamic. Him and the father were starting to bond. The whole family worked well together. Anyone outside of the family didn't, though. They kind of felt like they were just stuck into the story. The monster that reappears in his nightmares all the time has a haunting silhouette, but as soon as you see its special effects the first time, it looks kind of cheap. It doesn't look very scary. It throws it off a little bit, and the plot twist at the end that kind of resolves it doesn't really resolve it. You get left with a mystery and a loose end. If I had to give this movie a rating, I would honestly give it a 6. I mean, it's really, really close. I mean, if they just did some alterations and made the monster look better, or made the people outside of the family work together on screen better, or maybe dive a little bit deeper into the good dreams aspect, or change some things around with the nightmares so that it's not always the same monster, I think it would have worked out better and would have been a successful movie. But all in all, the things that they did in the movie, they did well. They were just really close to that border of this is something I should recommend to other people, so I would probably give it a 6. So the next movie that I did was one of the more important independent movies from A24 that came out in the past 5 years to push this wave of higher-end independent horror, and that is The Witch. The Witch is a prime example of the difference in what a primary, secondary, and tertiary attribute can do for the success of a movie. Within the primary attributes, you know, you have a pretty generic plot in witch trials, pre-revolutionary and post-revolutionary. You have pretty generic acting. There's nothing superb that stands out on screen. They're good performances, but they're not incredible. They're not something that consistently holds your attention because of the acting. And the writing is pretty normal. I mean, the speech is very well done. I will give them that. It's difficult to write in Old English to make it feel like a revolutionary timepiece. But where this movie excels is the secondary attributes. The cinematography is beautiful. They have these wide-angle shots that either stay still or slowly zoom in to just keep building that tension. A lot of very awkward angle shots to just make you feel uncomfortable throughout. Stark visuals. I mean, they really contrast the darks and the lights throughout the film. The character of Black Phillip always stands out. And the music and the sound is one of the best parts of this movie, in these chants and this high-pitched orchestral music that will drive a really slow burning scene into just sheer madness. I mean, it just continues to become louder and louder throughout the scene, and it makes you feel like either something's going to happen or everything's going wrong. I mean, it just keeps building to this slow tension that builds and builds and then finally breaks at the end of it. This movie is a very well-made movie, and for it being independent and part of this independent horror wave, and not having to show gore, not having to go into explicit violence, but to purely build off of tension as Blair Witch Project used to do, was incredible. I mean, they do it so well, and it looks so good on a TV screen. It was just, I was blown away from rewatching it. This is not the first time I've seen this movie, and I was still blown away by it. I would give it a 9.5. The only thing that's difficult about it is it's almost like a foreign language film, in that the way they speak drives some people away from it, and it's hard to decipher what they're saying. It's near mandatory to watch with subtitles to understand all the different, intricacies of what they're talking about and the way that they want to display their ideas. But other than that, there's nothing wrong with this movie. It's solid top to bottom. The third movie I want to talk about is a little bit of a stray away from what I usually do. Up until now, I've done all horror movies in all my reviews, and the one that I want to talk about right now is the Netflix original Game Over Man. This was absolutely hilarious. It's from the three guys who were in Workaholics, who I absolutely loved them. I love the show. It's the definition of late-night comedy, where it's just absolutely raunchy and pushes every boundary and just tries to be as disgusting and vulgar as possible, and yet finds a way to still be funny. It fits right in there with Talladega Nights and Step Brothers and all those. Just a normal story of three guys who have difficulties with their friendship and end up making up, but it's told through this hostage situation that they have to find their way through and out of and foil this terrorist plot. It's almost like an R-rated Home Alone type deal. It feels very goofy in that sense. The three of them already have chemistry together in real life, and the fact that they wrote the movie for themselves adds into how successful the jokes come off. A lot of great celebrity cameos. I mean, you have Shaggy, you had Action Bronson in there. I mean, it was just a funny thing to see them in it. And like I said, there's not a whole lot original to it when it comes to comedy. There's not a whole lot of, oh, I've never heard of that before, or, anything super boundary pushing. But I mean, they really push the edge of what you could put in a movie and get away with it without it being like porn. Um, it's just really nasty. It's really dirty. But if you watch it, it's just hilarious. At least to me, I found it absolutely hilarious. I'd probably give it a 6.5 because it has no real value to it. I mean, there's not much positive to sitting down and watching it other than you're going to laugh for a little while. And it's not a high quality produced movie. It's just really funny, and I think that they do a lot of things comedically successfully. The last movie I want to talk about, I'm not sure how to go about reviewing it as well. You know, I think I can just react to it better, is the documentary on Netflix called Icarus. And it speaks about the state-sponsored doping program in Russia during the Olympics and the involvement of this director of a laboratory. And it starts as him and this American trying to work together to recreate the Lance Armstrong situation of him getting away with a certain amount of doping, and how can you beat the system, how much can you take until you beat the system. And it just continued to grow and grow until it got to a point where this lab director was admitting to being part of the Russian state-sponsored doping program that happened throughout the Olympics and the World Cups. And it was just this masterpiece that just showed detail per detail per detail just what happened. I mean, everybody had always speculated this in the United States of America, and it always felt like no matter what we did, Russia was always right there with us with lesser grade athletes. I mean, they had great athletes who didn't dope. They have people who play incredibly. All their hockey players are amazing that come over to the NHL and play. But we always just felt like when it came to the Olympics, there was something else there. It wasn't just their natural talent. And this is a movie that sits down and kind of shows you the path that it takes and how real it is. And how real it is that nobody pays attention to it outside of the United States. So I don't know necessarily how to review documentaries. I know that they need to keep your attention throughout by telling you the facts at a good pace. Usually narration is involved in it, but there's not very much narration. It's very much so just life on camera. But I have to say, if you love sports, if you've ever sat down and watched the Olympics all the way through, if you pay attention to international sporting events, you need to watch this all the way through because it will just blow your mind how much is actually happening. I mean, if I had to try to give it a rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10 because it just absolutely shatters every expectation that you have for the Olympic Committee. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of stuff that they are able to display on film. So it was awesome to sit down and watch that this weekend. So that's about it for this week. Had a great time in sitting down with 4 movies over the long weekend. As always, leave a like if you liked what I said. Leave a comment. If you don't, we can debate it out. Please subscribe and share this out. You know, share it out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you guys use, and let people know that there's a guy talking about his thoughts. He's not afraid to share them. So